Good morning, everyone. I am LEA CARLA Degenion, and I am here to discuss about Chapter 7, Integrating Macro Skills in Mother Tongue Lessons. So, at the end of this video, or at the end of this lesson, students are expected to create strategies in teaching macro skills in Mother Tongue. So, let's start. In mother tongue based multilingual education, there are two end goals, which are the lifelong learning and communicative competence. In teaching mother tongue, the initial focus from grade 1 to 3 are the development of literacy, numeracy skills, and learning of concepts about language, skills, and competence, which will later on proceed or transferred in learning of the second language, which could be Filipino or English. As learning progresses or developed, these macro skills, the listening, speaking, reading, writing, and viewing, and also as well as spiral grade across grade levels and across languages. The ultimate goal for a communicative competence are both oral and written discourse of the three languages. Three languages could be first language would be their native language, and next would be either Filipino or English. So that would be three. The following are the suggested strategies in teaching different learning areas with integrated of macro skills. So let's start with first is listening and speaking strategies. So there are activities that could develop the listening and speaking abilities of the learners, which could strengthen their phonological and phonemic awareness. When we say phonological awareness, it is the ability of the learner or the student to manipulate sounds and words or play with sounds and words. So the skill includes recognizing rhyming words, identifying syllables, and blending of sounds. Just like for an example, if the student when we say phonemes is the smallest unit of the sounds. So when we say the phonemes for sun is s. So for the phonological awareness of that is the students are able to understand and manipulate the sounds of it. So just like for an example, the sun could be, as a learner know that the first sound that could come up from the sun is s. So in manipulating the words, they could change it into ch or ch, so that it could be chan, something like that. And another examples that they could easily manipulate sounds, rhyming, syllabication, and other stuff. For phonemes awareness or phonemic awareness, it is focuses on the ability to hear and identify sounds in particular words. So just like what I have exampled earlier, that as the learner know that the word sun, the first word would be the first sound would be s from s. Yeah. Discuss some activities or strategies for the teachers to apply macro skills in their mother tongue. For an example, now let's proceed to contextualized storytelling. So contextualized storytelling can motivate and sustain the interest of the learners in the lessons, since they can relate to the situations, characters, and events in the story authored by the teacher. So contextualized storytelling, the teacher also uses for an example, of course, mother tongue based learning. Also for kinesthetic learning, when we say kinesthetic learning, it requires physical and mental alertness assigned by the teachers as she tells the story. So if the teacher could, in the story, they will clap or let's say hooray, the children will also clap their hands and stand. This could include kinesthetic learning. Now for planted words. So what is planted words? So the teacher reads a poem or a story, then the learners follow the teacher's repeats reading the poem, emphasizing the words whose letter sounds are to be learned. Diba kanang kabantay mo nang when we still in our grade 1 to 3, the teacher assigned a specific reading for the day. So for that, the teacher could also emphasize one word every day so that the learners could memorize or understand these words at that day. Mo na ang kanang goal for the day bitaw nga muhatag sila og poem or reading materials so that they could understand, the learners could familiarize and understand specific words or sounds for that day. Now let's go for poetry and rhyming exercise. So it can make learners easily memorize the poem. They can also associate words that they can hear with their own vocabulary, which will activate prior knowledge and therefore develop their ability to discriminate letter sounds. One activity for this strategy is planted words, just what I have discussed. So the teacher reads a poem and then the learners follow the teacher repeats reading the poem, emphasizing the words and whose letter sounds are to be discussed. Lastly is for the total physical response strategy, can also be employed where the teacher gives direction which the learners act out. This activity develops the listening and acting skills of the learners. Now let's proceed for the reading strategies. So now there are still strategies or activities for the teachers to understand and learn so that they could apply it to develop the macro skills of the learners in teaching mother tongue. So first is the color-coded reading. So color-coded reading, if you are guys familiar with it, it can employed to assess reading readiness. Teacher prepares a paragraph with a sentence that are written and highlighted in a different colors. Then the teacher groups the class and assign a particular color similar to the colors in the paragraph to identify each group. Each group is made to read the lines whose color is similar to the color assigned to them. In this way, learners are focused on their lines and they focuses on their lines as they are reading the paragraph or the lines, color lines that are assigned to them. The teachers could easily assess or evaluate which are the parts that he or she could address very well. For an example, addresses the pronunciation, syllabication, and phrasing. This activity also enhances participation of the learners. So, one of the active learning activities for the learners. So, they could collaborate, socialize, as well as develop their reading, writing, listening, and viewing skills. Basically, all the macro skills. Now, let's go for interpretative or dramatic reading. So, the learner's skills, it is the part where learner skills are expresses themselves orally. With this, learners are given the chance to speak with the proper phrasing, correct pronunciation, correct stress and intonation. This strategies is also effective to non-speakers of the language, because as they listen to their classmates deliver their lines, these non-speakers would be swayed and moved by the performance of their classmates. This can eventually persuade them to learn, speak, and enjoy the language. So basically, it could apply dramatic play for the dramatic or interpretive reading. There are some like kabantay mo ng some activities for it is like giving a story to the children, tapos ilang i-act out using their native language. Ilang i-act out as what they have understand. They could also apply their own creativity. They could freely, they have the freedom to express themselves through their native language. Now next is routine activities. So routine activities is an important plays an important role in learning and teaching languages. For an example, the teachers assigned one student every day to perform or like assign prayers, so that students will actively participate by that through giving their own prayer baron inana. And as well as there could be some words from the walls or the bulletin boards that teachers could give an assignment or like routine practice gihapon sa mga lang students. So these are regularly done before during the classes and before the class ended. So aside from understanding and remembering the task that they have in their homes, they could also practice their native language in the school through this routine activities. So not just in school, but as well as in the community or their in their own churches. For an example, some of activity or the routine activities that are given to that are tasked for the children is there could be pictures or drawings that are posted or pasted in the bulletin boards or the walls that could be translated in Ilocano, just like for an example, the native language for the child is Ilocano. So the children are kanang maingganyo sila og basa-basa sa walls, which could also through practicing and kanang nga routine activities kay ilang ma-familiarize and as well as mo expand ilang vocabulary sa ilahang native language. Kanang native language ng Ilocano, kay for an example, everyday kay ang teacher kay iyang i-change ang mga different there are pictures there are pictures that are posted in the walls, so she or he could change the different pictures baron yang i-translate into Ilocano kanang sa every subject, diba naman ay bulletin board na like every English, math, sciences, hikase. So maingganyo ang kanang mga bataan na mga magbasa-basa sila, as well as kanang ilang prayers na sila tagaan nimo sila og task nga kanang mag-make sila og own prayers nila in their native language baron inana. So ila jud nang ma-familiarize, and along the way they could enhance and mailahan na gid na ilang kanang mailahan na gid ba like ilahan na gid madibdib na gid nila ilahang learnings ganon. So the third one is writing activities. For writing activities, there are two parts. So for activities for viewing and as well as activities for spelling. So these activities are also needed with instructional materials, which could also enhance a collaborative learning of the learners. So as you can see, there are board games that can be also used to post flat pictures, other manipulative objects like puzzles, numbers, or answers in math problems. So if you guys are familiar with it, kanang naaman dyan na mga board games bitaw nga maka-form og words such like let's for say a puzzle nga kanang banda man ang puzzle nga gagmay tapos na yung mga A, B, C, D ana. So the children are kanang malingaw sila og puzzle ana until they could form the word and they could see the word and familiar with it. So next is for viewing. So for viewing could also be part with a storytelling. So for viewing, teachers develop materials that for viewing activities like hand or stick puppets and pictures of storytelling. So basically, this could also for an example, puppetry bitaw activities like naa sila sa katong house tapos na mga puppets, so there are puppets that are used for storytelling so that the children could enjoy and they could enjoy the storytelling while with the instructional materials such like puppetry katong mga hand sticks na mga illustrations. So the big book is also another useful material. Within the big book or a separate individual pictures, the teacher can use colorful and attractive pictures to motivate the learners. The use of these materials develops creativity of the learners in oral and written written expressions, which can eventually lead to the development of reading comprehension. So the learners are also challenged as the class progresses. Cognitive learning like the WH questions. So along the way of storytelling, the teachers will also ask who are the characters, what place kanang kuan ang kaning setting, like kaning event, but also through instructional materials, the storytelling could be entertaining and very creative as well. Now is towards the end of the lesson, the learners can already share their opinion and formulate their conclusion. So if the storytelling are very successful as along the way they enjoy the storytelling, they could participate and ask questions that not just teachers would ask the questions but as well students are very curious, diba? Di man jud siya malikayan nga if mag-storytelling ka sa mga bata, pumanagi one student na teacher, what if kani siya teacher kay kani blah blah blah, they could always ask questions. So as a teacher, you also cater those questions, but always put in mind nga kanang dapat dili jud ka mawa sa imong momentum sa pag-storytell kay pag sige ra kag dawat og questions, so naa jud kay way para ma-balance pud nimo ang imuhang flow sa storytelling. So for a specific example activity for this is the farming activities. So as you can see in the photos, kay kanang naa siya mga different kinds of material and instructional materials like mga small toys, tapos na ay mga different kinds of living things nga makita sa farm, cows, sheep, goats, and others. Naa siya mga kanang words bitaw nga naka attach labels. They are the different toys kanang mga animals, living creatures nga makita sa farm kay they are labeled. Tapos they could also the learners could also manipulate how they are able to kanang play with this instructional materials kaning mga toys. But of course that as a teacher kay imo silang guidean bitaw nga kanang naay mga words that are attached to cows. So through that kanang what for an example, what is this kanang kind of animal, so na may word nga cows na naka-attach niya, so ma-familiarize na po na siya sa students. Yeah, they just really enjoy the farming activities. Next is fishing activities. So if you guys are familiar with it, kay naman gid na mga that the learners are giving instructional materials like DIY nga mga fishing rod, tapos na ay mga words nga kanang naka-attach gyapon sa katong fishes nga ibutang sa katong murag balipol baron or sa let's just say sa ground na lang, or if mas para active gid ang inyong activities kay buta to sa pool tapos naka-labeled ang every fish og words. So if the children are able to kanang ilang gamiton to ilang sticking anang fishing rod nga kanang naka-DIY or do it yourself nga mga fishing rods kay tapos ilang i-fetch like fishing good sila tapos magkuha sila sa fish tapos if magkuha na nila ang kanang fish nga with words ana na pud ka sa teacher mo kanang what word is this kanang imo silang i-guide what are the words that they get from their fishing activities. Furthermore, this facilitate recall and serve as point of reference for words which the learners find difficult to remember and to understand. It could simultaneously with learning important concepts. This activity enables learners to feel like fun and enjoyment experiences of catching fish, though it is only contrived. So kuan ba sila malingaw bitaw sila catch sa mga fishes with their DIY nga mga kuan stuff. So lastly, to conclude this report, teachers must develop his or her confidence by achieving fluency in the different macro skills which are speaking, listening, reading, and writing, and as well as viewing. So that would be all for my report. Thank you for listening and have a great day, everyone.